Hey Beehive, this is a project that I am going to show you how to do. This is for when I'm gone and you guys have a substitute. So make sure you're respecting the substitute. You're just going to follow along with this, and the substitute is going to pause as needed. So if you need the substitute to pause the video, make sure that you raise your hand and let that person know, whoever it is. So what we're going to do today is we're going to draw a beehive, because we are bees in this beehive school. So what we're going to draw first is actually something that that the beehive is attached to. So that is something you got to keep in mind. You wouldn't have a beehive kind of floating in the air, and you got to think like an artist. So we need to think about what is something a beehive could be attached to. And if you have any ideas, you know, you don't have to do what I'm doing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a tree branch. But then again, beehives can kind of grow, you know, on a lot of different things. So if you have a different idea and you want to draw that, you can go ahead and draw that. But I am going to start off with a tree branch. And if you want to follow along and do what I'm doing, I can show you how to draw that tree branch. So I'm not going to draw the entire tree. I'm actually just going to draw a branch coming off as if the tree was over here and our plane of view is actually on the paper. So I'm going to just see the branch and maybe some leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil. You guys likely have a pencil, and I'm going to start over here. You guys could decide to do it from here. You could decide to do it from the top, but I'm going to do it over here, and I'm going to draw a line. So I'm going to start with a dot, and that dot is going to take a walk, right? A dot that takes a walk is a line. So I'm going to start, you know, with a line a lot like that, and then I'm going to draw, so like tree branches aren't that thin, right? That looks kind of like a piece of your hair. So we got to think about how thick it might be, right? So if you want to make yours really thick, you can make yours really thick. If you want to make yours a little more skinny, you can do that. I'm going to make it about right here. So I'm going to start with a dot, and that dot is also going to take a walk, and it's going to slowly get closer to that first line that I drew. Okay, and at the end you can start to see branches branching off, and this is what will make it look a lot like a tree. And these branches will also be thicker than one line. The one line branches that you might see might be at the very end, where you're drawing this type of thing or this type of thing. Okay, but over here, this branch has to be a lot thicker because it needs to be strong enough to hold a beehive, if you think about that. You could also decide to draw branches, maybe up here or even down here, that are also branching off like these ones. You see how these are branching off? Okay, so I'm going to draw another one up here. But I really don't think that that branch would be that skinny like these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one a little bit thicker too. And then maybe I'll draw some more branches like this. Okay, maybe I want to draw one underneath. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. And you guys likely have pencils, so you can erase these lines. I'm drawing with a pen right now, so I'm not going to be able to erase these lines, but what I could do is, rather than crumpling up my paper and throwing it away saying I made a mistake, I could use this as maybe a texture for this tree branch. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Let me just finish this. Okay, what I mean by a texture is tree branches aren't smooth like this, right? This looks like a really smooth type of texture. So what you guys could decide to do is you could draw something that looks like bark. Oftentimes when I'm drawing a tree branch or a tree, I just draw a lot of lines, but you guys could decide to do different patterns. So maybe you have just a bunch of patterns in your tree branch, and that could look really cool. And I'll finish these patterns in the time-lapse video that I'm going to post, but that is an idea. And once, you know, I get to this part, maybe the texture is going to look like this. And so now it looks like that line was something I meant to do, right? Rather than crumpling up my paper and giving up because I made a mistake, I'm going to try and turn my mistakes into something that looks like I meant to do that, right? So after you've drawn, you know, the texture on your tree branch, you're going to begin with the beehive. So what you're going to do, hold on.
The office, please. Miss Merrill, to the office, please.
Just have an announcement. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to choose where our beehive is hanging from on the tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose about right here, and the beehive needs to be attached with maybe like a triangle. So I'm going to do a triangle right there. And then I'm also going to take my pencil or pen and lightly draw, very, very lightly, like you're just barely tickling the paper with your pencil. I'm going to draw a circle that goes almost to the bottom of the paper. So we got this circle. This is going to be the shape of our beehive. Okay, but beehives aren't usually this smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow these lines, but we're going to draw these shapes. Okay, and this shape is called an oval. So we're going to continue drawing these ovals that start and stop where those first lines were, or that first sketch of that circle was. Okay, so let me show you what not to do on this part. I'll show you on the back. So here's my triangle, here's my really light circle, and I'm not going to draw, so here's my oval, okay? I'm not going to draw an oval that overlaps this, because that's not going to look like a beehive, right? So I'm not going to cross those lines when I'm drawing my ovals, okay? I'm going to just let my ovals touch this line that we first drew for our first circle. See that? Okay, so I'm just going to finish this off. My ovals. Okay. I also want to put somewhere in one of these ovals, I want to put a doorway that my bees can go in and out of. So I'm just going to draw like a half circle right here, and I'm just going to color that in. Because it's kind of dark inside there. You're not going to see very much light inside your beehive. Okay? So you've got your beehive, you've got your tree branch. Now you're going to decide what season it is. So is it spring, summer, fall, or winter? Okay, and if it's winter, keep in mind you're not going to see bees buzzing around. So since we're drawing bees, let's kind of cut winter out of this. You're going to choose spring, summer, or fall. Okay, so I'm going to choose spring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some leaves on my tree branches. And that's just these little shapes here. It's kind of like a circle, but it has a little point on one of the sides. So I'm going to draw these. Or if you want to, you could just decide to draw like a cloud with maybe one or two not branches, but leaves that you can see in there. So we'll try that. Okay, so we've got our tree branch, or whatever it is that we're connecting our beehive to. We've got our beehive. We've decided what season it is. So I decided spring, but if you want it to be summer, your leaves will be bigger. If you want it to be fall, your leaves will be starting to fall down. So you'll see maybe some leaves falling, right? Okay, so we've got our main idea. One other thing that you learned about in the video, so we learned about beehives, we learned about what bees do. They go to flowers and get their nectar and bring it back to the hive, and they turn that nectar into honey. We learned about the queen. We learned about how the queen lays eggs, and and these eggs turn into these more of these worker bees. We learned a little bit about honey. So as you're thinking about these different things that we learned about with bees, I want you to think about what else might be in the background. So where do these bees get the nectar from? They get it from flowers, right? So what I want to see are maybe some flowers in the background. So maybe you could draw some flowers right here, because that bee is not going to be able to survive without flowers, because they need the flowers to make their food. So just as like a quick explanation on how to draw a flower, you're going to start with a circle, and then you're going to draw petals going around it, all the way around it. This is the flower, and then you also need a stem. You could also decide to draw leaves on the stem. Okay, so it needs flowers to live. It needs, let's see what else. It needs pollen, so maybe you can add some different parts of the flower. The pollen is always in that middle part of the flower, so make sure you're adding that kind of a thing. And it takes the pollen. Pollen is actually part of the honey making process. So we need pollen. They also get their nectar from the middles of those flowers. Maybe you could draw a queen bee. Now in the video it said that she doesn't really have a crown, but maybe you can just draw a bee. So for a circle, it needs wings, it needs a head and a stinger, because we learned about that, right? Stripes, because we learned that most bees have those brown and yellow stripes. And then maybe because I want everybody to know that this is the queen bee, I'm going to draw a crown on it. Okay, so there's the queen bee. But what else we're going to see are more bees flying around. So I'm going to draw some bees flying around. This is going to be the striped part. There's the head, wings. And what I like to do to show movement is I like to draw these little dotted lines. Okay, and that shows, hey, that bee looks like it used to be here, but it flew over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw lots of little bees, because this hive needs all of these little bees to make it so that they can all survive. They all work together, right? And they all have those stingers. I forgot the stinger over there. Wings. Where did this bee come from? I'm just going to draw lines over there. Okay, so you're going to decide how many bees you want. What I want to see is, there. I'll write the kind of things I expect to see on this. I want to see a tree branch. Or something that it's connected to, because it can't just float in the middle of the air. I want to see flowers. I want to see a beehive, and we learned how to draw a beehive. I want to see a queen bee somewhere in it. But you know, the queen bee usually stays in the hive. She doesn't go out unless she's looking to make a new home. So she should stay near the hive. And I want to see worker bees. And they don't have to stay on the hive. They can be on the hive. But a lot of them should be around the hive as well. Okay, so I want to see a tree branch or something that it's connected to. I want to see flowers so that we know that they've got food. I want to see a beehive. I want to see a queen bee. And I want to see worker bees somewhere in your picture. Anything else you add to the background, you're welcome to do, as long as it fits the same idea. Okay. In the time-lapse video, you're going to see me finishing maybe this this pattern. I'll probably draw some more bees and some more flowers, and you're also going to see me color it. So look forward to that, and I hope you guys had a fun time drawing this beehive. Make sure that you do your best to finish yours, because we're going to be doing a different project next time. All right, see you guys.